Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. I am Monet and you are watching Life is Monet. I'm very excited for this vlog because me and Jocelyn decided to get together to send each other some books, and I don't know what's in my packages because I finally got them all and she told me to label number 1 and number 2 for which order to open them in, and I have no idea which books she has sent me that she wants me to read, but she did send me a clip that she wants me to play that is going to explain why she chose these books for me to read in this vlog. I also sent Jocelyn some books as well, so I'm gonna put her channel down in the description box so you guys can head over there and watch her video to see what books I sent her and see what she thought of them.
All right, hello to you, Monet, as well as to your subscribers in your channel. As you know, me and you have sent each other some books. We kind of did a little blind book swap, and there weren't much rules to this book swap. The only rule was the other person shouldn't have read the book yet. So I actually went a few different directions in my picks. I'm gonna explain it as I get to each one. So let me just tell you about the first one. The first book that you should have opened is The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, and this book is actually one that I have not read. So for this route, as you know, you are my reading doppelganger. Literally when it comes to YA fantasy, any kind of general fiction or kind of whimsical books we usually like alike, as well as adult fantasy, we typically rate books the exact same. So I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to use you, my doppelganger, as a guinea pig, because every single time I go to Barnes & Noble, I see this series and I want to read it and I want to buy it, but I don't know if I should take the plunge yet. So I decided that you will take the plunge for me and read this book that I have not read, and I want to see your rating. And if you like it, then I probably will end up buying it and reading it as well, but you are going to take that risk instead of me. So the second book that you open should be a sequel, and it is God's Grave by J. Kristoff. I know that you have Nevernight on your shelves, and I do not think that you've read it yet. At least your Goodreads does not say that you read it yet, so you should not have read it yet, girl. So for this pick, I want you to read Nevernight from your shelves, and then you can also continue with God's Grave if you want to. Now, I know that might make this vlog a little bit weird because if you're reading a sequel, you might not want to be spoilery. So if you don't want to read a first or second book in this vlog, I also have a separate third pick from you from your shelves that you can also pick from. So it's your choice whether you want to read the sequel or if you want to read this separate book, and you will have 3 different books in this vlog. So my explanation for why I gave you God's Grave. Nevernight was one of the first adult fantasies that I ever read, and I really like it, and it has some elements in it that I know that you really enjoyed too as a reader. More specifically, the book inside of a book thing. I know you love that, and that is in this book. It just has a writing style that I think you would like, I hope you would like, and I just really would like to see you get through all these twists and turns and see how everything connects in this series. So I thought I would give you the push to start it by giving you the sequel and telling you that you must read Nevernight for this vlog. Also, little pro tip for you when reading Nevernight, I recommend reading the audiobook. I know you are a seasoned veteran in the adult fantasy gang, so this should be nothing to you, but the book does have footnotes and sometimes that gets in the way of people's enjoyment, so I do recommend reading the audiobook. But if you feel like you got it without the audiobook, try it. So the third book that I have, if you do not want to continue on with God's Grave, is Rabbits by Terry Miles. I know that is on your shelf because you are the one who introduced me to the book and you have not yet read it, and I really want to buy that book, but I need to see some opinions first. So if you do not want to read God's Grave, instead I want you to be my guinea pig once again and read Rabbits by Terry Miles. So those are all the options that I have sending you your way. I'm hoping for 5-star reads, but I literally cannot wait to see your opinion on all of them. Happy reading.
Jocelyn clearly thinks that she's funny. I hope that she was really tickled. I really hope that she was tickled when she sent me these books. I hope she got a good laugh. Little tidbit. I'm actually very excited and grateful that she sent me The Bone Ships, because last year I was purchasing books that I thought that I would want to read this year, and I also have a book buying restriction where I could only purchase 2 books a month throughout the year. And there's 1 month where I can do a bonus purchase and I could buy 3 books. And when I went to try to buy The Bone Ships, it was sold out at all the Barnes & Nobles in my area. And I also tried to go to Amazon, and Amazon was sold out of The Bone Ships as well. Both Amazon and Barnes & Nobles only had book 2 and 3. And I waited a week, and then I went back to Barnes & Nobles and they still didn't have it. Amazon still didn't have it. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna grab book 2 and 3, and I will just grab book 1 whenever it comes back into stock. And after about a week or so, I stopped tracking it. And then at the beginning of this year, my book buying restriction went into place, and I was just like, dang, I have to wait until I get closer to actually picking up that book and reading it, because I don't want to waste my one of my 2 purchases throughout the month that I'm allowed to do for books on the bone ships, just for it to sit on my shelves. So very, very grateful that Jocelyn decided to make me the guinea pig for the bone ships, because now I have the complete collection that I wasn't able to get last year because the first book was sold out. Now, I do own Nevernight, but I was not gonna read it anytime soon. I guess until this vlog became a thing. So, I don't have any preconceived notions about Nevernight. I've read Illuminae, which I really enjoyed. I tried reading Aurora Rising, which I really hated. I DNF'd that like 50 pages in. And I also read Empire of the Vampire, which I gave, I think, 3.5 stars. But this is the series that I guess really like put them on the map in adult fantasy. And I honestly don't even know what it's about, but I am a sucker for a book within a book about a book. That's my love language. Okay, it sings a French love song to me, so I'm very interested in that. I don't think that I'm gonna read the sequel in this vlog, so thanks for this extra book on my TBR, Jocelyn. Rabbits is a book that I purchased last year, and it was a 5-star prediction for me, and I did not get a chance to read it last year. And I also saw that it was put up for a Goodreads Choice Awards at the end of last year when everyone started voting. And the fact that it was like nominated, I seen it and I was just like, I should have read that freaking book. I was very excited for it, so why did I not get to it? So I am actually going to read Rabbits in this vlog so that both me and Jocelyn can know if it was a good choice. Rabbits was already a 5-star prediction. Nevernight just made itself a 5-star prediction, especially if it's a book about a book. And then The Bone Ships sounds really, really good. This is our TBR for this vlog, and I could not be more excited. I am back, and I have finished the first book of this vlog, which is going to be Rabbits, and boy do I have opinions. So first of all, this book was not at all what I expected it to be. I purchased this book because I wanted something similar to like Warcross. I wanted to be in like a video or like virtual reality, and the idea of this very secret conspiratorial game occurring that only a small group of people know about, and they're like trying to uncover the mystery of what it is, was very enticing to me because I enjoyed Warcross that much. But this is more of like a take on conspiracy theories for sure, because we have this main character whose name is Kay, and the author never explicitly mentions the sex of Kay. They are someone who gets very obsessed and like compulsed within this game, so much so that it takes a mental toll on them. But they are an avid game player, from Dungeons and Dragons to like anything virtual reality or RPG. They are a game player, and like they get this sense of like high, almost like they're addicted to playing games. So they constantly have to be involved in the next or like most epic gameplay, no matter what it is. And Rabbits is essentially a conspiracy theory that no one even really knows what it is or if it's actually playing. When you are playing the game Rabbits, you don't even know that you're playing the game Rabbits, and you're interpreting things that you think has a meaning. And so in order for you to even know that Rabbits exist, like I feel like if this was something that was happening in the real world, I am one of the people that definitely would not be aware, because you have to be a pattern reader and you have to read into things that are seemingly minuscule and minor, but you are supposed to take away something from that. And so even people who have won the game, all of that is conspiratorial. You don't really know what Rabbits is, you don't really know what the victory is, and the people who have won the game, they're not coming out and sharing information, so you really have no idea what Rabbits is. It's literally a conspiracy. It's really hard to describe, but the book takes a pretty cool interpretation of things like the Mandela effect. So I don't know if you know what the Mandela effect is, and I'm probably going to do a horrible job of explaining this, but the Mandela effect is something that most people remember happening that never actually happened. Like the Berenstein Bears, some people remember the name as Berenstein, or like the spelling being different. Some people remember like the sunglasses being on the little Raisin brand thing that never actually happened. Some people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison, but he actually didn't. He left prison to go and like be the president. It's just basically this thing that everybody feels like happened and never actually did. For me personally, the Mandela effect that I felt like did happen was the Genie movie with Sinbad, which actually never occurred. But for some reason, I definitely remember there being a Genie movie with Sinbad in it, but it was not. I think the movie was called like Shazam or something like that, and it has Shaquille O'Neal in it, but I definitely remember it being Sinbad. And so with the game Rabbids, you are in the real world and you're picking up on patterns and things that are not there. Another thing that I thought was really cool is that this book is set actually where I live right now. So it's in Seattle and surrounding areas. And so the author takes the main character to places that I visit on a regular basis. So it's really cool to see this specific Northwest region put into this book. So like our main character would be in downtown Seattle and they would look at a building that they're pretty sure used to have 3 windows, but now it has 4 windows. Or they would see a skyscraper that was never there, that just kind of popped up overnight, and now everybody assumed that it has always been there. And so like it is literally like going down this rabbit hole and you become obsessive. Anybody generally will become obsessive with the game Rabbids, but our main character is someone who is already obsessive of a game, so much so that they have been hospitalized. They see a psychologist. They are on medication for their mental health. They have been arrested on like this obsessive kick or like binge into video games, and now they are becoming consumed with Rabbids. And as you're following them, you don't even know if Rabbids is really real, and like people are consistently dying, and those who used to be into the Rabbids game with our main character, they're backing out. They're telling our main character that it's dangerous and they don't want to be involved anymore. So you are going down this rabbit hole with the main character. There's so many things that I did enjoy about the book. I just wanted it to be a virtual world, and that is what I was looking for when I started reading it. And so I was a little disappointed with that. Although there are some things that I thought was pretty cool, it took a turn away from like Warcross and went into a very sci-fi direction, like the 22 Murders of Madison May. And I do think that this is a very strong book, but I feel like I would give it a 3.5 stars because of my level of disappointment. And also I felt like the ending, it could have been my lack of interest and like more so that it wasn't what I expected it to be, that the ending felt kind of like ridiculous, I guess. Like you get more into the world of Rabbids and you go down this rabbit hole, and it starts off extremely extreme and extremely like temperamental. And so like getting into the crux of the matter for me was just like, okay, this is not for me. I think that if you're someone who enjoys conspiracy theories, if that's something you get a kick out of, if you love conspiracy theory podcasts and you're also into gameplay, not just video gameplay, but like any versions of games from like Yu-Gi-Oh to Dungeons and Dragons to online gaming, VR headsets, all that things, this would be the book for you. I did enjoy my time with it. I don't think that it would end up being anyone's all-time favorite, but I do think that this would be a very cool movie adaptation. I would love to see Kay on screen because the author never mentions Kay's sexuality. And so when I was reading this book physically, I thought that Kay was a male. And when I was reading the reviews on Goodreads before I purchased it, I thought Kay was a male because other people referred to Kay as he or him or his. And when I started listening to the audiobook for this book, it was actually a female narrator, which would mean that our main character is queer. I don't know if they were like gender non-binary. I'm not exactly sure. I know that the author has come out and said that he wrote Kay as a female. So which case that would mean that our main character is neurodivergent. There is some mental health representation in here. And also there is a queer romance because Kay has always been attracted and been with women throughout the book. So no matter where you're looking at it, either Kay is gender non-binary, in which case it doesn't matter because it's really cool to get to know Kay, but they are never describing themselves and they never talk about themselves, and the author again never points to their own sexuality in any way, shape, or form. So you get the story through them without really having a clear vision of who they are. You're literally seeing the Rabbids game from their own eyes. And even towards the end of this book, the person who does end up winning the Rabbit game, we never get an answer about what it is they won, how much money they won, the jobs that they get. Like there's so many conspiracies about the Rabbit game. Some people think that it is actually something that was rolled out by the US government to find CIA agents and FBI agents to see who was like intellectual enough to catch on to these patterns that everyone else goes about their day ignoring, and they would be the perfect person to be a secret op agent for the government. It's a lot of things into this book, really hard to describe, but overall I enjoyed my time with it. 2 more books in this vlog. It is either going to be the Bone Ships that I grab next or Nevernight. Okay, so it's totally been months since I started this vlog, but I'm back and I am returning to it. I am now 50 pages into Nevernight, and usually I would not check in with a vlog this early, but I'm making a special exception for this one. Jocelyn knew what she was doing when she recommended this book for me. She knew it was going to be a 5-star read. She slipped this in there, and I just want to give a personal shout out, a personal thank you, because she has my reading taste. She knows my reading taste. The writing style in this book is my favorite. Like, this is my favorite way to tell a story. I did start listening to it with the audiobook in conjunction to me reading it. Another great advice on Jocelyn's part. And I feel like I'm always going to trust her recommendations when it comes down to audiobook, because when Jocelyn tells me to listen to an audiobook, it has always enhanced my reading experience. And so this is just following up with her record, her 10 out of 10 record on that. Favorite way to tell a story. We have casual brutality and violence, which I love. The storytelling, I love. This back and forth and like weaving different timelines as we're following our main character with ease. Like, the transitions are so smooth for me. I am absolutely loving that. And it has a religious element. You guys know I love books that have like religious fanaticism in there, and book about gods. And yeah, so immediately off the bat, the first 50 pages in, I am kicking myself for letting this sit on my shelf unread for so long, because it has all of like the perfect components. Like, this is the perfect recipe for a Monet book, and I'm having an incredible time so far. I am excited to see where this book is going to go. I hope that we get to explore the gods aspect for a little bit, but I like our main character. I like how brutal and vicious she is. I feel like she seems to be very detached emotionally, but I'm hoping that we get to like dive into that and kind of like break down these walls. But her quest for revenge, I'm absolutely here for. I feel like I'm really going to enjoy this, and I'm actually dedicating this entire weekend to just reading this book. It's Saturday right now. I spent this morning reading like the first 50 pages, and I wanted to check in with you guys, but I am like putting everything off on my to-do list, and it helps that I have the audiobook so that I can listen as I go about my day. I do want to note that before I started this vlog, the only book that I had read by J. Kristoff was Illuminae and also Aurora Rising. I really loved Illuminae. I really hated Aurora Rising, and so like it was one 5-star read and one like 1-star read. And then I read Empire of the Vampire when it came out, and I believe I gave that 3 out of 5 stars, but I really got to see why people love J. Kristoff's writing. There are so many things I liked about Empire of the Vampire. Not a bad book at all. It was just incredibly long, and I feel like it could have been shortened. Other than that, that's really like my only complaint about the book, but I'm getting all of those components and more in Nevernight, so this just might be my J. Kristoff book. So yeah, I will check back in with you guys. So I am just over halfway through the book. I'm on chapter 20, which is I would say like 55 to 60% through the book, and it is progressing at such a pleasurable pace. I really enjoy the pacing of this book. When I'm ready for the plot to like increase, when I'm ready for the stakes to increase, J. Kristoff does it. I really like our main character. Right now she is going through this assassin training to serve this dark goddess at the school, and the tests that she and her cohorts are being put through just increases the severity and like the stakes of what's at hand that I'm really enjoying. The world building is pretty consistent throughout the story, and I'm still as excited about the story as I was from the beginning. I'm very much looking forward to the ending of the book, because just the small caveats throughout the story that he puts to just grab the reader's attention or like to snap them back into focus, I feel like in the end that will seem very mild compared to what's going to happen at the end of this book. And I am so glad that Jocelyn already sent me book 2. I don't own book 3, but that is totally fine because I have been listening to the audiobook, and so I feel like I'm going to stick with that medium throughout the series. And this was definitely hardback quality, and I don't know, maybe my paperbacks will be upgraded in the future. I will say that like I'm very surprised at how good this book is. Even though I already owned the book, it wasn't high on my priority list to read just because of the negative media that I've seen around J. Kristoff, but he already got my money. I had already owned a copy. He's trash, but the book is not. The book is a banger. The book was a hit. It's just unfortunately that he is not. And yeah, this is where we are. I will check back in with you guys when I am. I have finished Nevernight. It served what it needed to serve. It gave what it needed to give. The audiobook, brilliant. The plot, the characters, the ending of the book, bloody brilliant. I don't rate books anymore in the series that I'm currently reading. I just kind of give one general rating for the overall series, but if I was gonna rate this book, without a doubt, it would be 5 stars. It deserves all the hype. This had such an epic ending. It was something that I would expect to be a series finale, and to kick off a series with such a banger. I am so excited for the books going forward. The dry humor in this book I found very funny. I know that people really get upset about the footnotes. I listened to the audiobook, so it did not bother me, but there was just so much like wry humor in the footnotes itself that I enjoyed. And so I can't say that I would not have been frustrated with the footnotes if I had to read it, but I feel like it added a lot of characteristic to the story, and I, listening to the audiobook, enjoyed that component as well. Even though this is the 4th book that I've read by Jay Kristoff, I'm still surprised because out of the 3 books that I had read before, not that they were bad, but I did not see this caliber of talent from him in those 3 books that I read. So I have a newfound respect for his penmanship and his writing skills. And yeah, I am glad that I read this book. I'm glad that I got it off of my unread TBR because that's been a priority for this year. And I cannot wait to see where our character goes in the future. When I say I want to read a book about an assassin, about an unapologetic, relentless assassin, this is what I'm talking about. I don't want to read any more books about assassins if it's not going to give Nevernight. So one more book in this vlog, and that is going to be The Bone Ships. I am not sure if I'll start that book this week, so yeah, I'll see you guys when I get to that. Something about this cover literally screams the Life Ship Trader series by Robin Hobb. It just gives me the exact same vibes, and I don't know if that was like done intentionally, but I didn't compare it to that series when I went into it, especially because I just literally finished book 3. This one is very different. I can see a lot of people DNFing this book. If you are someone who really loves just like the piracy and like being on ships, dealing with folklore, dragons, serpents, ships that's like imbued with magic, following characters that are criminal or kind of like anti-heroes, if that's your vibe, I think that this book is geared specifically towards you. I think that this is a book that people that love this trope and this genre, they would eat it up. I think that if you were trying to figure out if that was something that you liked, this is most definitely not the book to start with. Usually I read series that have a component at sea where our characters are on this journey. It's usually in book 2, and it does not bother me or irritate me, and so I think that I do pretty good with like ships and pirates as that being the center plot of a book. It's not something that I always go towards and pick up, but it doesn't irritate me as much as it does other people. But I have seen reviews where people are like, oh my god, we're just literally stuck at sea and I want this to be over. There's just something about being on a boat waiting for a story to take off that just feels like it's very prolonged. The author does a good job of building up tension on page, and I've been enjoying that component so far. I feel like it's definitely not entry-level fantasy. You have to take some time to really visualize what's happening in the story. I think that the characters and the interactions and the way that the characters are depicted are easy to understand and to kind of follow, but the way that the magic works in this world and some of the creatures that exist within this world, I think that it takes a little more effort on the reader's half to really like envision. I did not know anything about it going into it, and you don't get the plot of this story until you're about like 100 pages in, a little over 100 pages in. So it's very interesting. I think I was more intrigued when I was just jumping into the story and figuring out where we were going. But once the main objective was rolled out, I have to say that I felt a little disappointed. It just wasn't as intriguing after that reveal as the story was in the beginning. Now, the author can very well still pull off this plot at the end of the book and make it seem interesting, but I'm not very sure. So far we are following one character that is, we're getting most of the story from his POV, and he was condemned for something that he did, and so he ends up on this like black ship, which is the equivalent of like going to the watch or having to go to the wall. Like, you're basically outcasted from society, and for some reason, like a stroke of literally good luck, he becomes the ship wife, which is like the captain of this ship. But he is not a fighter at all. He's not a hardcore criminal at all. Literally everything that has happened to him so far has been like just a twist of the draw. We start off the book with him, and this character by the name of Lucky Mies comes, and she challenges him to the duel so that she can become the captain of this ship. And he knows immediately that he's going to lose to her because he is not a fighter at all, and she has this really deep reputation for being like the baddest pirate ship captain there is. And so of course he loses to her, and this feeling of jealousy, hatred, and also respect starts to fester within him, and he looks at her and admires her leadership, and he wishes that he could get others to follow his command the way that they do her. But also he has like little moments where he's determined to kind of like bring her down, or become the captain of the ship again, or to betray her. So he teeters back and forth over that line throughout the story. But Lucky Mies has like this objective that isn't really revealed to the reader for a while, and she's determined to get this condemned, outcasted black ship of just criminals into tip-top shape, to achieve what it is she wants to do. And he's going along for the ride. And so that's pretty much like the first 100 pages of the story. There was some battle scenes, and I have to say that although I feel like the author is doing a good job of writing tension into the story, I am only mildly interested, and that's just because I'm usually mildly interested in stories like this. I don't know if I'm like, if that trope is just something that I flock to. I think that when I read stories that are set at sea, it really only works for me in adult fantasy. I've tried to read that component in a YA series, and I usually don't like it YA style. I'll check back in when I make more progress in the story. I really hope that he can take this overall plot objective and do something nice with it, and kind of lean on what I like about his writing skills so far. But if this starts to go downhill, I am very much gonna DNF this book entirely, just because I don't think that it's for me. There's nothing bad about the writing. There's nothing bad about the characters or the plot. I just think that this is targeted towards a specific audience, and that is not directly me. I have made it to I don't even know what page this is, like 315 in the book. I have literally like less than 200 pages to go. It is such a small amount, and I think I'm gonna just stop and DNF, and that is something that kind of disheartens me. But I honestly just am not invested enough in the story for me to keep going to see it through to the end. I think that ultimately it is just failing to captivate me and to really engage me in the story, and something about it is just disconnecting for me. I have a lot of the same feelings that I had from my previous update. I think the author is really good about creating tension on page, creating chaos on page, and for that reason alone, and some of the character dynamics that we have, there's this one creature in the story that is very hard to connect to, and the main character Joran that we're following the story through has a relationship building component with this creature. And I love any type of like animal connection, animal companion in my high fantasy stories. And I think that like it's a bit of a carrot and a stick situation, because there's just enough of the things that I like to make me want to continue with the story, even if I'm not enjoying myself and even if I don't necessarily like the book. It's just good enough to not be bad enough to DNF. I don't see that changing towards the end of the book. I feel like if I embark on this journey of finishing this book, then I'm definitely going to read book 2 and book 3, just because it has slightly enough of the things that I like to make me sit and finish the entire series. But I am weary that I'm not going to be invested through all 3 books, and I am not very curious about where the story is gonna go. I'm not very curious about a surprise ending or some type of like jaw-dropping moment within the story. Honestly, when I was reading this, I literally had the thought that like I would be having so much more fun reading book 2 of Nevernight, and that was like my deciding moment of like, yeah, if I can think of several other books within my reach, literally just have to go to my bookshelf and pull it off, of books that I would have a much more entertaining time reading than this one, then that is probably my sign that it's time to put this down. I have to say though that like I am impressed with RJ Barker's writing skill. I saw that there's another series that this author wrote about assassins. I think book 1 is called The Age of Assassins, and that just sounds like it's much more up my alley, much more my speed. And so I am not saying goodbye to RJ Barker. I'm pretty much just saying goodbye to the Tide Child. I'm pretty sure that's what this series is called. Yeah, the Tide Child trilogy. I'm gonna have to say goodbye to that one. I can think of several other people that would enjoy the story more than me. Like I mentioned earlier, if you like being set at sea, if you love maritime worlds and lingo and just seasickness and the chaos of being in the middle of the ocean and having battles between ships, I do think that like this book is for you. I would not be shocked at all if this was more of like a special project that this author took on because they just really love those types of stories and they wanted to pay homage to that genre and like that subgenre of fantasy, because I think that all of that is evident here. I think that it does a good job of conveying those stories also while being a little original and bringing something fresh to that scene. I'm not that girl. I can find dragons somewhere else. I can find animal companions somewhere else. I can find my drama, my tense moments, and my chaos somewhere else. And yeah, I'm saying goodbye. And that concludes this entire vlog. I have to say that like I actually had a good time exploring these stories. They were so refreshing and different than what I was expecting them to be. I've already shared my thoughts on Rabbit. It's now been months since I read Rabbit and I still have pretty much the same feelings as I mentioned earlier in the vlog. Coming out of this vlog, the banger, the hit, the 5 out of 5 stars is definitely gonna be Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I cannot wait to continue with that series. I appreciate my experience reading the Bone Ships. I've learned a lot about my reading taste, and I think that I'm going to stick with stories that have like a sea component at some point throughout the series, but I don't think I'll be picking up any more books that are completely set at sea. I think that looking back on it, one of the reasons why Robin Hobb worked for me when I was reading that series is because you do follow some characters that are back on land and you have a break from being just entirely at sea throughout all 3 books. And I think that that balance was just the perfect amount for me of what I needed. I don't need all maritime languages and slang 24/7 within a story. So
that's something that I've learned about myself, and I know going forward to the future. I know that RJ Barker just finished this series recently, and I have no reason not to expect that they're going to be writing something different, and I will be sure to like keep an eye out for that to see if there is a plot or a subgenre that they're going to be writing in that is geared more towards me. And yeah, thank you guys for watching this vlog. Thank you, Jocelyn, for all of these recommendations. I'm gonna go read God's Grave. I'll see you guys in my next video.